Welcome to a football show here, Tuesday edition. Not sure we've ever said that, but it's a Tuesday edition because, of course, Monday was a holiday. Hope everybody had a great Christmas. Happy Hanukkah.
Is Monday a holiday? I mean, do you count the day after Christmas a holiday?
The damn people picking up the trash don't. So, God bless you all for doing it, by the way, because I didn't get my trash can out on Monday. But it's a holiday. If my kids are not allowed to go to school and my wife's not at work, it's a holiday. So that's how I define it. And of course, next week, same exact thing. We'll be on Tuesdays at 1 o'clock. By the way, this Friday, we'll recap the Thursday game against the Cowboys. We'll be live at 9 a.m. So it's a Tuesday-Friday week here on a football show brought to you by the Kingston Group and, of course, the pharmacy over there in East Nashville. They said they were so crowded, Zach. We have done such a good job for the pharmacy. They were so crowded that we couldn't go do the show there today. We had to do it from home, and obviously it's exclusively because of the work that you and I have done here on a football show.
Obviously. No doubt that is exactly what it is.
It's nothing to do with 32-degree weather.
Nothing.
And none of the tables being available outside. It has everything to do with the fact that we continue to tell you to go eat your great burgers, go eat your great wursts, go get your locally sourced beers over there at the pharmacy and have a great time without your screens, without listening to press conferences, without watching the Titans games, without watching bowl games. Just avoid it altogether. Go to the pharmacy, have a great meal there with your friends and family. And, of course, make sure you check out the Kingston Group as well. BuildKG.com is the website. We'll tell you more about, of course, the Kingston Group and pharmacy a little bit later on. Zach, how was your holiday, man? You feeling better? It sounds like you're good, despite the Titans outcome.
Yeah, feeling better. Essentially, I rebounded right around Saturday or Sunday, but we spent Christmas just us. We watched for the first time because I when Harry Potter first came out, wasn't big into the books. Never read the books. Never really have watched one movie all the way through, let alone the whole series. So my wife is a huge Harry Potter fan, big pothead, and we basically went through the whole thing. And I have to say, thoroughly enjoyed the Harry Potter movies. A lot of inspiration from Die Hard throughout the series. I mean, just everywhere. And also Alan Rickman, king of the holidays, no doubt. He is starred in all Harry Potter movies, which are considered Christmas movies. Die Hard, and not only Die Hard and all the Harry Potter movies, also Love Actually.
We will talk about football apparently today on the show. Have you seen the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special?
I did. It was very good.
That is the funniest Christmas special I've ever seen.
Yeah, I would have to say so.
Like you know how all these movies and shows, they do their little 20-minute, 10-minute, 30-minute remake or whatever to spice it up for the holidays.
Yeah.
I think my wife and I laughed out loud. The daughters love it. I don't know if they should be watching that, but I don't care. I think that's good parenting. So we watched that.
Anything wrong with the Guardians of the Galaxy?
Well, there's a few shits. You know, and some guns and people.
Your kids are probably already cussing. How old are they again?
They're 4. One of them's 4.
I was pretty close, like 6 or 7. I mean, not that far away.
You do have a podcast, by the way. Check it out this week. Football and Other F Words. That is titled F Words. But no, my daughters don't know those words yet. They say they still use like poo poo butt and doo doo head, and like they're still in the potty words situation. Yeah. But we don't listen to that Disney shit music either. We listen to like real music, so they're probably going to cuss a lot soon. So we'll see. We're just trying to hold off.
Apparently, Derrick Henry's entire press session in the locker room was only like 30 seconds today, which is going to be interesting. I can't wait to listen to this after the show.
Yeah. So listen, the thing that keeps, and we're going to talk Titans. We're going to talk about this Mike Vrabel not really doing his team many favors, of course, with his comments to the press, both after games and after practices. Listen, there was Shane Bowen, Malik Willis was available today. There's a lot of people available today. But we're going to talk a lot about where to me, and we'll touch on some bowl games and we'll touch on some other stuff, the injuries, but a lot of Malik Willis. I know you have a great piece, by the way, Broadway Sports Media. Check it out. Go sign up for an insider. You could have had early access to that article by Zach looking at Malik Willis's performance on Saturday. To me, it's so weird, Zach. I don't know. My brain just goes right back to the Crossroads comment. And I remember us doing a show and I said, this was so weird, dude. This was so weird. And you were like, yeah, you weren't as weirded out as I was, but you kind of were like, yeah, okay. And then like the next day, John Robinson is fired. And now a couple of weeks later, we are asking ourselves questions about the future of Mike Vrabel, the who is committed to playing football. Like this entire organization, if that was in fact the Crossroads, this entire organization is unraveling before our very eyes with Derrick Henry fumbles, like it's just if you would have told me all this stuff was going to happen 5 or 6 weeks ago, I would have laughed at you when they were 7-3. It's unbelievable what's happening.
It is wild. It's I think many people are disheartened by it. Specifically after the game, and we'll talk about it more in depth of Football and Other Efforts, but Mike Herndon was basically the Jets' loss after 2021 when they lost to the Jets. Him and Lebowski were like just distraught, right, on the episode. And I was like, guys, calm down. Multiply that by 20. Season is over. Not only is the season over, the next 5 years, dark as hell. Like,
Wow.
I mean, he was in his feels. You couldn't bring him out of it. So I'm going to see how he is now a couple days removed. But I mean, I think a lot of fans are disheartened. A lot of fans are left questioning Vrabel, his commitment to getting better, his commitment to the next step, and meanwhile, Vrabel's questioning his players' commitments and
well, sorry. So
step.
All right, we'll get to all of that. I think just a quick kind of, it is 48 hours removed from the game. I had some time to like rewatch it, which is some sadomasochism at its finest. But like, Derrick Henry's fumbles are one thing. That's fine. We'll discuss a lot about Malik Willis and the growth. Has he improved? Has he not improved from a metric standpoint? The eye test, again, you wrote a great piece about it. But this offense had the football on its final 6 drives 4 times inside the Texans territory. They managed a turnover on downs, a lost fumble, and 2 interceptions. The last one kind of doesn't really count, but it is technically a drive. They have lost now football games, allowing 21 points to the Giants, 20 points to the Chiefs, 20 points to the Bengals, 17 points to the Chargers, 19 points to the Texans. Lost all 5 of those games, 4 of them at home. And the defense got stops inside their own 10-yard line. They had every conceivable opportunity to win that football game, to be 8-7 with a winning record. And I know you and I disagreed on picking 10th or 11th versus picking 20th or 22nd. I would still rather have a playoff game to enjoy and a division championship to enjoy. I don't care as much about the 7, 8, 9, 10 spots in the draft. It's just not as big a deal to me
think
personally.
The team needs a win. They're not going to get it on Thursday, but the team needs a win to get into the playoffs. They need to get in the playoffs, and then they'll, of course, lose in the playoffs because that's what they do.
And I agree with you on Thursday. And again, here's the other thing. Another reminder brought to you by the Kingston Group and the Pharmacy. Friday morning recap. I'm not sure what to call Friday morning's recap episode. what it's going to be. Hangover Complain Fest. It's not going to be pretty, but come hang out with us and we can all
leave it in the old year or something like that. We'll leave it in 2022.
Yes, we're moving on. It is just,
there's so much that came out of this
it's
loss.
Unbelievable.
That it's hard first off to keep a show an hour. So I'm very lucky that I get this show and Football Under the F Words. Like we record back to back, you had
to do your own show. You had so much to say.
I just had, there's just so much to come out of it that I thought that the comments, the play of Malik Willis, the comments from fans, the comments from Mike Vrabel, the comments from the players. I mean, everything that is coming out is this is a totally different team than what it was just 5 weeks ago. I mean, really, it's a totally different team, even after however far long ago the Bengals game was, or even the game after that. It's just a totally different team since the Eagles loss. You have to think that A.J. Brown at Christmas said, I don't need any presents. I got it from what happened in Nashville.
Wow. All right. So we were going to do Malik Willis before Vrabel, but can we switch that up? Are you capable of live producing the show like this? Let's go Vrabel first here, because it feels like that's where we're at now 2 days later. Is how different this team and the organization is. Now, a lot of this, again, even NPF had to leave the game. So the offensive line is still in shambles. Did they use Treylon Burks the way they're supposed to? Absolutely not. No. But they still had so many chances to win this game. They still had chances to beat the Bengals. They had chances to beat the Chargers. So it's not like I don't want to go full scale doom and gloom in the whole, like, I don't believe Herndon in that 5 years, the next 5 years are going to be atrocious.
I don't think look, you remember how bad 2015 was and how quick 2016 was flipped on its head?
That's the NFL.
Why can't the same thing happen with this? I mean, it's almost the same exact team, right? you except for without the question at quarterback, but technically you didn't have a question at quarterback then. So like,
No.
I mean, I personally did, but you don't, right? I mean, you still have Tannehill that you can go to. Your offensive line is a mess. Your pass catchers need work, and this offense is arguably worse than 2014's offense, but with better talent. When you really think about it, they have better talent than that 2014 team. So why can't a GM with Mike Vrabel as the head coach come in and flip it around fairly quickly?
So
that's my thing. That's my
no. I think you're 1,000,000% correct.
I think
this
there's
is the
a
NFL.
lot to be said about what Vrabel's doing right now, and talking about what's right now and how it may lead and impact his future. But it's all speculation.
Now, I thought it was interesting because the start of the Mike Vrabel conversation is the crossroads comment that then leads to the precursor to John Robinson getting fired. Then we sort of have you kind of also have to know how Mike Vrabel talks, which I think Titans fans do. They kind of know how to read between the lines when he says a bunch of stuff, and he doesn't really take the blame for stuff, but then he kind of does, and you're not really sure. It does feel like he has been a little bit more clear about the fact, especially with the move to fire the general manager who is in charge of the players. Last year's offseason, you've pointed this out a number of times, changing all of the the coaches aren't the problem. It's the players, right? And this 8-4 comment about, again, take the numbers to be whatever you want them to mean. To me, it means he thinks his team isn't working hard enough. His team isn't committed enough. And that's a strange thing to say.
Means.
Yeah.
Because, and then he tried to backtrack and spin some yarn on Monday because he realized he was caught in a rare, vulnerable state on Sunday after the game.
He was just saying the shit.
And he was just saying it, and it was the first thing that popped in his head, and I know he regrets saying it, and he even tried to backtrack it in that same press conference, but you know what? That was the honest answer, because you know why? Jeffrey Simmons said the same thing leading into the week. He said almost the exact same thing. And Vrabel said it on Monday in the presser when he was trying to backtrack. He said, any message I give you guys is a message I've given them. So he's been talking about this at least at some point during this losing streak. He's been talking about the guys that are 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And I think the guys that are making the same mistakes over and over are the guys that he's talking about. I think when you're talking penalties, when you're talking technique, when you're talking not knowing where you're supposed to be, those are the guys he's talking about.
That's what I was going to ask you, is because you can't, I don't think you can call into question like LaRaven Clark. Maybe he's not doing what he's supposed to do, but the guy hasn't been starting. He's been thrust into a situation because of injuries, multiple injuries, 3 injuries in theory in that situation. To me, he can't be talking about the injury part of this equation of the roster, right?
No,
he can't be doing that. So Kevin Byard blew a coverage on like the second drive.
But I know Kevin Byard is not that guy.
No, I know. I'm just saying. I'm trying to use an example of like Kevin Byard.
NPF, Roger McCreary. I mean, you talk about 2 guys that have had the same stuff pop up, not turning your head around, not always getting penalties. You're talking about Dennis Daly is probably one of them. I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of them. Dillard Radins is probably one of them. I would venture to say. I think Bud Dupree is one of them. And he's a veteran. And I think Bud Dupree and Rashad Weaver, because we've already seen instances of Rashad Weaver can't even make it on time to his rehab, and he lives 2 minutes away. So I think there is a copious amount of people, a lot amount of people that are contributing to this that are actual players that are playing 16 games or 17 games at this point that he's fed up with. And maybe he's just mad that NPF is just
you can't do that to rookies. You can't do that to rookies, though.
Why not? He holds them to the same standard as he does veterans. He always has, always will.
I agree, but if you're going to call out your team, I'm just going to kind of speak from my own. Like, if you're going to call out your team for lack of commitment, whatever that might mean in your head, I feel like you need to be talking to the guys who are established. You need to be talking to the leaders and the veterans on the team that you don't think you're getting enough from. Bud Dupree, for example, is a perfect one that I would say if he's frustrated with Bud Dupree making mistakes, not being where he's supposed to, not doing his job, not being as committed or whatever, that's like, I don't think you go and call out a rookie right tackle forced into duty and a rookie corner forced into duty with Christian Fulton being out. I'm not saying they're not making mistakes. I'm saying that to me isn't, like, I would say that's not good coaching or leadership.
I would disagree because you needed, first off, you want to break them in as how you want them, right? If you're letting them off the hook just because they're rookies, they're never going to learn and never going to get better. These players,
No, you're not wrong about that.
Yeah, these players today need proper expectations set. And if he's saying you need to come in here early and we need to get this all hammered out and working out, and that guy doesn't show up, then that guy deserves to be reprimanded. Now, listen, I don't think he's going through every player and undressing them in the locker room. I think he may be having private meetings, or he's using generalities and sending a message and letting his player leaders step in. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, so I'm not necessarily saying that he's going in through an undressing. I'm telling you who I think the guys are that are not putting in the work, and who he's talking to in a broad sense.
Right. And I what I am kind of replying to that with is if I am the leader of 50 dudes and I have lost, quote unquote, lost the commitment level that I expect, I am not blaming the youngest and the worst players on the team. Like, I'm not, they might be a part of the problem, but that it is the core top 10, 12, 15 veteran leaders that are required to show and carry the commitment of the locker room. And I'm not even saying that's
well, I would say,
that's
though,
lost,
outside of Bud Dupree, who would be the guy that's a veteran that you think is not pulling their weight, that fits in that mold?
That's why I was asking. It's like I don't honestly know.
That's why I don't think it is.
Is it Robert Woods? Like, is it Austin Hooper? Is it Amani Hooker?
Maybe.
Like, I don't know.
I mean, look at what, like, to me, when he's talking about that, look at Jack Gibbons. He came in, he was on fire, he knew what to do, he was in the right moment, the right time, and then you look, okay, here's a guy, Zach Cunningham.
That's one. That's exactly right.
It has to be one of those guys. And I think I forgot about him. But, you see the stark difference of someone that's been preparing and is seizing the moment, and a guy that thinks that he's owed something and is not doing his job.
It's funny.
That multiple times this year out of Zach Cunningham.
No,
and
I think
he has that issue from his Texans days.
I completely agree with Cunningham as being a potential candidate primarily. Derrick Henry's made some mistakes, but no one is going to suggest that Derrick Henry's not working hard enough or isn't committed. I wouldn't guess. There are some other veterans on the offense. Again, I'm not saying that these are the guys he's talking about. I'm just trying to pick out the names that could be possible. Right. Here's one quick comment on the Cunningham thing, and I don't know. Tell me if you thought this too, but didn't Zach Cunningham have a pick six in Nissan Stadium on the goal line as a Houston Texan?
I think he did.
Like 100 yards back the other way. And didn't he drop it right in his hands in this game?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
To me, I saw that, and I looked at my brother-in-law. I was like, that's exactly what he did. That, like, he did that exact thing to the Titans in this building at that spot on the same left side of the field on the north end zone. And at that time, he made the play. And this time, it just falls to the ground. They had so many opportunities to win the game. And it is hard to look at the core of this team and find the guys that he could be talking about. To your point, it doesn't mean that Roger McCreary doesn't need to fix mistakes or that MPS, again, one of the only. It's
hard to find. It's like it's Zach Cunningham and Bud Dupree, right? I mean, like, those are the veterans. If you're talking about guys that are in the league 4 years or longer that are considered veterans, those would seem to be the guys, because the guys that step in to replace them, your Mario Edwards, your DeMarcus Walkers, your Dylan Coles, your Joe Schoberts, your Dr. Jack Gibbons. They
their
step
job.
in. They step in and elevate their own game, while these guys are obviously are coasting. That's what it feels like to me, is that some of these players are just coasting, and maybe they've given up and they're like, well, I'm not putting in any more extra work. Maybe this is a new thing. Maybe this is not a season-long epidemic, but amidst this losing streak, certain players are like, well, I'm not putting in the work. And then certain rookies are like, well, if I see my veteran leader not putting in the work, maybe I'm not going to put in the work. Well, you got to put a stop to that. And the rookies are going to be here next year. Some of these veteran players are not. Yeah.
And to me, that's, I guess, what ultimately comes down to is, I don't view it as the job of the rookies or the last, let's say, 6 players on the 47 or the 53. It's not their job to set the commitment tone or the work ethic tone or it's great if they do, and that's why you draft them, and that's why you want them as a part of your organization. Again, I think McCreary has shown Like he's a worker. He likes the game. He's willing to admit when he makes mistakes. Like I don't think it's Roger McCreary's job to carry the commitment level of the defense. And frankly,
he's got to carry his own personal commitment level, and that's where ultimately I think some of these things are lying. Or there, I don't think it's a team issue necessarily. I think it's an individual player issue, and I think there's a handful of individual players that are playing considerable snaps that are putting in hard work when they're there, but they're not putting in extra work, or they're not doing either. And I think that's both is a problem.
Rob, and if you want to jump in the comments, please, I would love to hear from people on this because it's hard to explain other than the injuries and the lack of talent and just sort of like what's happening to the organization. Culture is one of the strengths of Vrabel. I don't understand how that could be all of a sudden crumbling. And I do think that's fair. It's hard to understand the implosion other than pure lack of talent. And you've already fired the guy who was responsible for that. So now it's Vrabel's job to fix all this other stuff. And maybe he's frustrated and venting it a little bit more than we expected.
This is the first time he's really been met with this level of adversity, right? He's never had a losing streak this long, probably even going back to his playing days with the Patriots. He may have had it with the Chiefs, but I don't think there's been a losing streak of this magnitude inside of his whole career. I may have to research that, bring that up. But there's he's never really had to deal with this kind of adversity either as a player or as a coach, and he coaches
coaching for
like
the
a player.
Coaching for the Texans, he had some
defensive coordinator, I guess, but I don't know. When he coached for the Texans, they were 11-5 teams and they were winning divisions.
No, that's true. That's true.
So I don't think he's ever had to face this adversity. So I think this is all new to him. But again, winning cures everything, right? Unfortunately, you're going up against the Dallas Cowboys, who are going to boat race you because you have to rest players so you can win against the Jacksonville Jaguars. But what's interesting to me, the 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. I thought was super interesting. I think that tells you a lot about the state of the locker room. Now, tie that in with a question by, I believe, is Terry McCormick on Monday to Vrabel. You talked about this team having the confidence to get out of the losing streak a few weeks ago. Does this team still have that confidence? And all he did was avoid saying yes, yep, yeah, positive that this team has confidence. He didn't even mention the word confidence in any of his replies. This team right now is at the lowest of lows. It's not going to get better after the Cowboys game. In fact, they shouldn't even have a post-game press conference at the Cowboys game. I think that everybody just needs to take the week off as far as the press, the fans, the analysts, because this game is so meaningless. It's ridiculous. And you know what? Let's all go in thinking this because you know what's going to happen? Titans are going to win.
I know. That's what I was just thinking. It's like they're going to go. I don't know what the point spread is, but it's probably like 9-10 points or something. And they're watch them win outright. Chris says this: the difference between last year and this year has been QB1 health. How many more wins do they have if 17 plays all season? Maybe one. I'm not willing to say that Ryan Tannehill wasn't playing elite football. It was coming around.
I think you have the Chiefs game, and I think you have the Texans game. Well, I'm willing to throw the Texans game. I think you have the Chiefs game for sure.
Yeah, I think it's one. I think it's at least one. But again, even within the offense, the offensive line has never been healthy. Burks has been in and out of the lineup, and we'll get to how. I mean, listen, this offense, whether it was Malik Willis' fault or not, they had 12 negative plays. 12 negative plays on offense. And I guess, I don't know, I'm not done with Vrabel yet. So I don't want to move on to Willis in the offense, but 12 negative plays. And then the question from AE says, do you think Vrabel is gone after the season? And if he stays, does he get more power? I think the second question is far more realistic. I don't think he gets fired at all.
I don't know. But AE, listen to this week's Football and Other Efforts, and we'll talk a little bit about this.
And I'll just say this. I have some text messages to some college sources. How about that?
There you go.
I've got some text messages out to college sources.
I thought this was interesting because I want to put this to bed. Unless Sean Payton Company want to come to Nashville, Vrabel's here to stay. They're not coming to Nashville. It's L.A. or Arizona for Sean Payton. They're not 100% not coming to Nashville. Get it out of your head. Sean Payton is not coming here without like a 10-year, $100 million commitment and full power to bring his own GM. And because there's nothing here for a guy like Sean Payton. He doesn't want to do a retooling or major rebuilding. He wants to go to a team that has pieces in place already that he can take and say, I can make this the next Saints team.
Well, I'm with you on Arizona because I think Cliffy's done. I don't think Staley's done for the Chargers. Obviously,
well, there's Sean McVay's probably going to retire from all.
Okay.
Reports.
Sorry, you said L.A. I was immediately thinking
and Staley and Chargers people. They're still not sold that Staley keeps his job with the way that the offense has been going. But we'll see because Sean Payton dictates, right?
Yeah.
Are you going to want Brandon Staley or are you going to want Sean Payton?
I mean, there's not many teams in the league that keep their coach.
Right.
Like if I'm the Commanders, I'd rather have Sean Payton over Ron Rivera.
Payton is picking his team or the team that he's going to.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the Titans.
Well, and frankly, to me, the statistical probability that Mike Vrabel is not the head coach next year is like less than 2%. Like to me, it's an extremely low number. Maybe I'm being naive, but it's an extremely low number. There's not anybody out there that's automatically better, again, except for maybe Sean Payton. You've already made the big move, guys. Like you've made the big move to shake it all up. And especially if somebody in-house gets the job as the GM, which is still possible, then Mike Vrabel's the one with the power. And that's okay. It just means it's on him to make the right decisions from now on. I'm not in the building. I'm not here to say, like, I think this is right or wrong. I can give you my opinion, but then what we tell you is the results, the consequences. And the consequences of this is that they are, if they give all the power to Vrabel, then it's all on Vrabel. That's it. It's not that complicated to understand.
The hiring of the GM, whether Vrabel stays or not, the hiring of the GM is going to tell you everything you need to know about Vrabel's status, right? I mean,
yep.
If the GM is someone from outside the organization, then they're very compatible, have the same shared vision, but Vrabel doesn't have final say. If it's someone inside the building, probably Vrabel has final say.
I don't think it's much more complicated than that. Again, I think the plan is not all that complicated. It's hire a really quality GM, change your offensive coordinator, draft a bunch of linemen and receivers, and then ride with who you have at quarterback for the short term, solve the quarterback problem long term 2 drafts from now. I don't think it's that complicated.
But me and Mike also have a big show. We don't know if we're going to do it heading into week 18 or after week 18, but we're going to have a really big, large discussion about this team's future as it pertains to Malik Willis. It's going to be really big. It's going to be
I'm starting to feel a little bit like you save all your good stuff for Mike, and that kind of hurts my feelings a little bit.
We talk about the more, I guess, the analytical side of things. We talk about the extreme weird stuff.
You mean like completion percentage above expected for Malik Willis on third downs when being blitzed?
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
I enjoy that stuff too. It just sometimes the acronyms get a little governmental. There's a
lot of acronyms.
It gets a little governmental for me. So speaking of acronyms, you want to talk about Malik Willis here for a second? Because I think we've gone over, you probably have read and have seen enough content about the Titans game to know how many missed opportunities they had on offense, how many missed opportunities they had on defense, and how many chances they had to win that game. They should have won the game. I don't know. Like, first of all, the Houston Texans, sometimes I enjoy watching people be creative. And sometimes I just laugh about it. Watching them yo-yo their quarterbacks in and out of the lineup and win a football game in the professional ranks is one of the silliest things I've ever seen.
I mean, it worked against Kansas City Chiefs for a hot minute. I mean, it's kind of crazy.
It's very strange. It's very Steve Spurrier, like Florida Gators kind of stuff. But let's get to Malik Willis then, because I went back and watched a lot of the throws. I went back and watched a lot of it. And you had a big 3-part breakdown. Go check it out, Broadway Sports Media, where you break down the eye test, you break down the metrics, and you break down the analytics.
And I should say it's the initial eye test, and the reason I put initial on there is because that's what the fans watch, right? The fans watch the initial eye test. They very rarely go for the all 22.
So they did finish with, I believe, 4 3-and-outs. So now they have a league-leading 53 3-and-outs on the season. And
no, they had 50 heading in, so 4 3-and-outs. No, they had 5 3-and-outs and 1 turnover on downs.
Yeah, well, they had a couple of drives that were only 4 plays. And it's like,
they had one drive that was 4 plays. I looked at this morning, so they're up to 56.
So you're counting 4? Okay.
56 if you include the 4, 55 if you don't.
So I think there was, and I know you had some interesting comments about Willis staying in the pocket, trusting himself, going through progression. So let's start with the positive on Malik Willis. Let's go that direction first. And in your opinion, in your mind, by the way, go to the Kingston Group and check out the pharmacy. Pharmacy for burgers, Kingston Group for anything you need to know about your house, any renovations, anything like that you need to do. BuildKG.com. You can trust them. They're Nashville's locally owned custom home and remodeling firm. They're award-winning, I might add. So go check them out, Kingston Group, BuildKG.com, and the pharmacy as well. Great place to grab a burger and a beer when you're listening to your favorite Titans podcast. Okay. So what are the positives people should take away? Because I have a few of my own, but I want to hear yours first. Give me some of the positives that you would take away from Malik Willis now after his third start in the NFL.
He looked more comfortable. I thought that he looked great on RPO plays, and when it was his bread and butter, I thought that it looked like he was reading the field better. And I thought that he made some pro throws and pro decisions for the most part. I thought that what you have seen be complained about from his first two starts in the preseason was improved upon greatly. And I don't know if that's because maybe Chig and Traylon were on the field more and taking people with them. Because, again, I have not watched all 22. But I thought from the angle of Malik Willis, I thought he played better. Now, I don't mean to say that he played great or anything. I don't think that he's the feature or anything. But I think that if you're talking about a third-round rookie behind one of the worst offensive lines ever assembled in a Titans uniform, with Todd Downing as an offensive coordinator in a system that really doesn't fit him, I thought he showed progress. He's a third-round rookie, and I thought he showed progress in that context. You have to have context. You have to have nuance. You just have to.
Yeah, life is lived in the gray areas. It's not black and white. I agree with you. I think even on the very first couple of drives, I thought the third down throw I think it was to NWI on 3rd and 9, got him into the 4th down situation. That was a 1-2 read throw right into coverage, and it was a nice, accurate throw. It kind of looked like it wobbled a little bit, but it was a nice throw. Got him into a 4th and short where they converted. I thought, to your point, he looked better on the zone reads. A lot of really comfortable zone read options there where he's really comfortable giving the ball to Derek or taking it and running. They especially on the drive, the second to last drive that ended up in the interception where he does make a terrible decision and doesn't read the linebacker dropping out. But I thought he looked way more comfortable. He's even more comfortable with the media. He is far more comfortable speaking his mind. He had his first, I guess, team speech to the team this last couple of days. He is looking and sounding more like an NFL starting player. And I think that's a big step in the right direction. I thought there were a couple of times where you could see his head go 1-2 read, and no one was open. And if no one is open, that ain't his fault.
PFF called him a lot of coverage sacks because they didn't put any sack on tight ends or on any of the offensive linemen. Anybody blocking, they put one sack on Malik Willis. The other 3 had to have been coverage sacks. I bet one is considered just a blown play, which would be the Corey 11 miss snap, and that had Chig and Haley just like frozen. They were just flabbergasted. I don't know what to do once the ball is snapped. Even if the ball is not supposed to be snapped at that time, you still fucking move.
Yeah, you play the play. No, the very first drive, I thought actually the very first drive is a perfect example of this. I think it's 3rd down and 9 or 10 or something like that after a bad screen pass, and again 12 negative plays, including sacks. A lot of that was like, we'll get to some of the negatives of Willis, but I think cadence might have been a problem for him. I think
that's what we all thought in our group chat talking about the game, is that something is up with the cadence. I think it's a Corey 11 issue. I don't necessarily think it's a Malik Willis issue, because when Mike Vrabel talked about Corey 11's play, he talked about that play, the Chig play, put that squarely on Corey 11, but he said operational things were a problem for Corey 11. And operational things have to do with the cadence.
Well, I also
that's just from what we've heard from Vrabel.
Yeah.
I mean,
I thought Jonathan Grenard was reading Malik Willis the entire game. Like he was in the backfield on
the offense is very predictable.
I don't know why you'd say that or who that responsibility is for. But even on the first drive, back to Willis, on the very first drive, they're in a bad situation. It's 3rd and long, so it's a predictable situation. But he drops back and actually has a count or two to go through his reads. You can see his eyes go 1, 2, 3, and then he gets sacked. And so that's the offensive line, and frankly, that's coverage. So that's an issue. I don't think the offensive game plan, while there were a few really fun creative plays, in particular some of the RPOs, some of the zone reads, some of the handoffs where you're motioning one guy and motioning another
crazy
guy.
how well RPOs worked and how few times they used them.
The one thing I think that did not do him any favors, and I think this is not on him at all, is clearly as the game went along, they were putting more and more people in the box to threaten Derrick Henry and stop the run in different ways, and they never tried to loosen it up with Treylon Burks. They never tried to go down the field. They never tried to use his arm strength. They never tried anything. In fact, one of the best plays of the game was a 20-yard pass play to Treylon Burks on first down in like the second drive that was called back because of an NPF holding call. But it was a great play. And it was a nice design at the right time, capitalizing on Burks and Willis's strengths. So I think he showed a lot more control of the offense, and I think that's a positive step.
I think it's ridiculous that they didn't stretch the field at all. No Racing McMath, right? I mean, Racing McMath did not get one pass snap at all. No offensive snap for pass plays. That's ridiculous for a field stretcher. That's insane to me. And then you have Treylon Burks and Chig Okonkwo. Chig, he had a bad drop. 2 targets, 1 catch, 1 drop, 2 targets all game. Then you have Treylon Burks, 3 targets, 0 catches. Now we know that the one that he did get one on 20 yards was called back for a penalty, but the only other 20-yard pass attempted was the Hail Mary.
Yeah, that's so stupid.
That is utterly mind-blowing, mind-numbingly stupid. And and it drives me nuts because, okay, the RPOs were working, right? And I give credit in the article to parkarski.com because I know Blake Bedenfield did a majority of this work. But the 11 RPO plays were called. 40, and those 11 plays count for 40.8% of the total offensive yardage. 10.1 yards per play. 11 RPO plays. Out of 54 total plays.
12 of which were negative, by the way.
Yeah, 12 of which were negative. It's unbelievable how incompetent Todd Downing is week in and week out. And there is the second drive in the third quarter where they go Derrick Henry run, pass, punt. Why not another Derrick Henry run? Why are they? I don't get it. I don't get why in the second half, and this is a close game, why they're going away from Derrick Henry all the time.
So can I add one more positive? Because I feel like we're already like everything we say
I
is like.
I do have a negative about Malik Willis.
I know.
Two negatives.
Here's everything, but everything we say is like, here's a positive thing-ish wrapped inside of like a negative burrito. So I want to say one more positive. I thought the touchdown run, that drive, embodied drive to me embodied, if you're a Titans fan, what you want your team to look like, which is Derrick Henry breaking tackles and physically imposing your will, Malik Willis getting out of the pocket, them using design runs with Malik Willis completing a few short passes, like for what he is right now, right? Like, again, if he's a 12-year veteran, you want him doing different things, but right now you're trying to control the offense a little bit and play to the strengths, and that drive was some physicality, some Derrick Henry, some design runs.
Yards after catch by the wide receivers. Nobody wanted to go down. Like, that was the embodiment of a Titans football supposed to look like.
Wasn't that the end around to Burks too, where like Vrabel comes running down there? Like Vrabel is like fully aroused running down the sideline, like saying, way to go, way to finish the run. That is the drive that that drive happened. And I thought, you know what? Because it was Zach, I was blown away. Not only was the drive like the way you want to see them play the game, it was in the third quarter.
Yeah.
Zach, how about that? It was in the third freaking quarter. And I go, wait a second. This team has some life. We're seeing some confidence here with the quarterback. I thought that's when they had the game won. And lo and behold, they also forced an interception on the very next drive. From that moment on, I thought the game is the Titans to lose, and of course they figured out a way to lose it. So
yeah, I mean, of course they do. Look, there's some negatives to Malik Willis's play. I think the coaching staff is in his head too much, and he doesn't feel. I think he swapped his hesitation in the pocket, trying to find a ball and trying to, panicking, for hesitation getting out of the pocket when the play is obviously busted. And when he tried to get out of the pocket, it was already too late because he held his time to throw on sacks was 4.95 seconds. That does not include scrambles. So that is straight up when he gets sacked, he held the ball for 4.95 seconds.
That's a long
Almost
time.
5 seconds. So he was not leaving the pocket quick enough despite the coverage breaking down the field. And I think that is coaching trying to make him something he's not, which is what you're not supposed to do when you draft Malik Willis, which I've said all offseason, said all regular season, that if you draft Malik Willis, you cannot do what you're doing. But that is a him issue.
I think there's a balance. I think there's a balance there.
That's a him issue. That is too much on your sacks to hold on to the ball when you have athletic ability. When you have the ability to escape the pocket and make people pay with your legs, that's too long to hold on to the ball. So that's my number one thing. The other thing that I thought he did poorly on, well, I guess that was both of them, holding on to the ball and not escaping the pocket.
Yeah,
I hit that all into one.
Because I read that, and then I went back and watched the game from your article, and then I was like, all right, I want to make sure I'm checking on this, because there was a few times where I thought he did shoot out of the pocket quickly because the pressure was so bad that he just sort of took off.
Yeah, he has some good scrambles, but he wasn't consistent in his decision making in those instances. Like there's times, in the first few games and in the preseason, he bails on the pocket too early.
Yes.
And now he's bailing on the pocket too late.
There's a middle ground where you need to go through your progressions, but you also need to have that clock in your head going pretty quickly because your athletic ability is so dynamic. And again, even on the drive where they score the touchdown, it's that first 12-yard scramble that gets all the juices going a little bit. Clout House ENT says there was a soundbite of Downing today saying that they don't want to fall into tendencies with RPOs. That is, I would say this. I saw that clip. It is true of every single thing any offense in the history of the NFL does. If you fall into a tendency with anything that you do, the NFL is going to figure it out. So
I don't know. It works for the Ravens, and this in Lamar's rookie year and his second year has worked. Why can it not work for this team to go RPO heavy to help your rookie out instead of putting, like Jordan Ruse was playing a great game when they were doing RPOs and when they were doing run plays and all this stuff. And then when they get into the pure passing situations where everybody knows you're passing, he crumbles up, which is okay because he's a 29-year-old undrafted free agent that's not going to amount to a start, right? But you're not putting your team in the position to succeed. That's my thing. I don't know how anybody can walk away, and we talked about this on Thursday, how anybody can walk away saying that Malik played like shit and look at the surroundings, look at the offensive coordinator, because I put this in the article. You know that if Ryan Tannehill went out there and threw for 165 yards and 1 interception and they lost the game, they would blame everybody else but Ryan Tannehill. And he is first, obviously. He's a first-round, 11-year NFL veteran that could not play well behind that offensive line that Malik Willis played on Saturday. So you're expecting a super raw developmental project who has had very little time to develop, that was drafted in the 3rd round, to come in and be something that Ryan Tannehill couldn't even do.
Yeah,
that to me is just either plain stupidity, stubbornness, or I'll say it, I think it's a little racist.
Well, I tweeted today that I thought Sam Hartman would be a better quarterback for Tennessee than Joe Milton, and I was told where was my White Hood meeting later.
Oh, well, there you
go. Because I happen to think that a guy with 130 touchdowns is better than a guy who started 3 games, but that's just my opinion.
And I'm not saying every Malik Willis detractor is a racist, but if you don't think there's racists in every fan base, then you're wildly, naive.
And I say this as someone who's lived in the South for like 35 of my 40 years. There are some racists here, okay? Yeah. Like there are some.
There's a few,
there's some racists here, okay? We're not condoning the behavior, but either way, if you have a piece of analysis on Malik Willis versus Ryan Tannehill, if serious people don't have race is not a part of this discussion from serious people, serious normal human beings.
And there are very unserious people.
I think the context for all of it. I'll just give you my broad takeaway from Malik Willis. Like stepping back from the intricacies of every missed potential read or excellent execution of an RPO or whatever it is, just stepping back. And knowing that we think they need to change the coordinator because they clearly didn't take any shots to help him out and loosen up the box for Derrick Henry. We don't agree with the timing and some of the decisions that Todd Downing has made. We all agree that they probably should make a move there. The offensive line is one of the worst we've seen in modern Titans history. The receiving core, while has some potential, Chig and Burks, has not been fully healthy and not consistently played with Malik Willis much at all on a team that has lost 5 straight. And right now we're wondering about the questions and the confidence in the offense. I just think for a 3rd-round draft pick in his 3rd start, you could have done a lot worse. And the guy's got a ton of talent.
He had them in the game. I mean,
the interception on the drive where you led a very solid first half of that drive into Texas territory, and you this is where I would say where Willis's biggest mistake was. He clearly pumps the slant route to Burks, and then he kind of hesitates. He's not sure if he should throw it again, but he throws it anyway, and he can't see because the pass rushes in his face. That's one of those where you either need to fire it the first second or you need to take it and run. Yeah. And that's a mistake that a rookie quarterback makes sometimes, and it happened on the worst possible situation.
You should have seen my comments, Braden, when I said, oh, looks like Malik Willis chose to do his best. Ryan Tannehill throws an interception to a Texans linebacker game. And people were like, I can't believe you would ever compare Malik Willis to Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill is a 10 times better. I was like, just saying, Ryan Tannehill has thrown that interception. We saw it last year in 2021. Ryan Tannehill has thrown that interception numerous fucking times. That is an interception that a lot of quarterbacks have made throughout the year.
Tua Tagovailoa just did it twice on Sunday. Who's having?
I know, because it fucked up my his concussion. Fucked up my whole fantasy thing.
Championship. Yeah. He's having one of the most efficient seasons in the history of the NFL, and he just made 2 incredibly poor decisions and didn't see players.
Yeah,
it happens. And so my broad takeaway is I see progress. I see confidence growing. I see the little things around the edges that mean that maybe there's a chance he could grow into a starting quarterback one day down the road. And I don't think fans should expect any more than that. But I think you need an offensive coordinator change. You need a better offensive line. You need more weapons. And all of that stuff has to happen for anything to even be possible for Malik Willis or Ryan Tannehill.
I think it's people had this wild expectation that he was going to defy his 3rd-round pick. He was going to defy his raw development, and without ample playing time, he was going to be a stud whenever he went up to the line. I think it's wild because this team does nothing to help him as far as during the game days. They don't do anything that made him successful at Liberty. They keep him in the box. They keep him confined. They're trying to make him and break him down and build him up, and I think that's a waste of time. Yeah. I think you got to just let Malik be Malik, and I've said it all year.
All right, so we're not going to talk a ton of college football because the Titans are so dominant today on the show. Go check out the Pharmacy, of course. The burgers, they're amazing. They're spectacular. They're wonderful. They're great. And, of course, the Kingston Group right there, Build KG. BuildKG.com is the website. The Kingston Group, the Pharmacy, 2 great, awesome sponsors here. Locally owned businesses in Nashville, just like Broadway Sports Media, just like 440 Sports. All this stuff locally owned and operated here in Nashville. For Nashville, by Nashville. Look, got to play better, got to coach better. Shout out to the Sobros Network as well. Also, a local network here in town. So the injury stuff, unless you got anything else to add on Willis, the only thing I would add is the cadence thing, which I think he could have been better. And when he laughed about the trying to draw him off sides thing,
I didn't really like that.
I thought that, but like to me, that shows one of 2 things. It shows either he's loose and confident and that he's maybe not a professional yet. Right, like it's a little bit of both. Like I think
his comments after the game and after, I think that to me I know you have a different take on his pressers, but to me his pressers were not great. I thought
I meant more of today's availability. I thought
I didn't think it was that good.
Okay, I think his body. Like again, I studied.
I think he has great body language.
But it's even better than it was in camp, though.
I agree with that. But I think he's saying all the wrong things. If I was a professional teammate with him, I wouldn't like what he's saying. But that's me. That's a personal preference. It's like people who think Marcus is some great god of leadership, and Ryan Tannehill isn't a great leader because he went and got mental help.
I think they're both pretty decent leaders. How about
I think they're both different, and I think
very
that's
different.
Malik Willis is not my leadership style so far.
So how are the Titans going to beat the Cowboys with none of their players? Because they probably shouldn't play any of them, right?
Because that's just the Tennessee Titans. I mean, like at the end of the day, I know we've said this and it has not worked. This has not been the same Tennessee Titans team, but couldn't this be like some kind of crazy trap game? I mean, for the Cowboys or something. They
Yes.
just over the Titans, and the Titans just come out and they've installed more RPOs. They've, start using Burks and Chig more, and because they recognize them, maybe they just go crazy. You never know. Listen, I'll say this: the Titans are the people that are saying, well, they don't need to be resting players. They need to, have a winning attitude. And, this is a disservice to the fans. Fuck the fans. Like, I know this is not football or other effort, but fuck the fans. Like, are you mental? They are resting players because they have not given up on the season and they think they're going to win in week 18. That's what they're playing for. That's not a losing mentality or a loser mentality. That is a winning strategy.
Yeah, it's called a strategy. Yeah.
Yeah, that is smart. That is genius. And listen, if you have not sold your tickets to this game by now through this losing streak and have not gotten your flight vouchers if you're flying in, that's on you. You're an idiot. You're a moron. Do not go to these games. I don't know how many times I can tell you. This is not a game.
Well, nobody did on Saturday.
They shouldn't have. So. They absolutely shouldn't have, and they're not a lesser fan for it. They're a smarter fan for it.
And listen, I'll say this: I'll give you more leeway to complain and bitch and moan about commitment and success and all these other things if you are out there on Christmas Eve in 22-degree weather. I'll give you more leeway to have those opinions because you are committed. I can't question your commitment. You're a high-level fan at that point. I've got a couple of my family that went to the game. I also had one guy in my family who sent a text message to like 10 of us that said, "Hey, look, got some tickets available if anybody wants them." You know how many people responded? Zero people responded.
Yeah.
So we if you don't go and you don't show up, you have less room for me to complain about. The strategy of success.
No, you have all the room to complain about because you know what? There are no fans better than other fans. All fans are created equal in the eyes of Mike Vrabel. And listen, it does not matter if you go to the game or not. That's stupid to go to a game against the Texans with Malik Willis behind the center with no offensive line. I don't care if you got him as a Christmas gift. Sell him and take the money. Like, I don't care at this point. I think it's ridiculous that there's like this 1% of fans thing going on and that fans are talking down to other fans saying you're not a true fan because you didn't go to the game. Listen, this team is not worth your health. It's not worth it. They're not worth it. And that does not make me a better fan to be real or a worse fan that I am realistic in how I view this team.
No, you and I can both look at the same team and in the same moment say, hey, I would prefer to have a playoff game, even if we have a 5% chance of winning and win the division and it hurt us in the draft. And you can say, you know what? I think I value the 10 or 12 or 15 spots higher in the draft because I want to rebuild faster. That doesn't make either one of us a better or worse fan than the other. It just means we disagree on the strategy, and that's okay. It's okay for us to feel that way. A good question here is, do you think Tanny plays? This from Clubhouse ENT. Do you think Tannehill plays in Week 18? Is his double super secret surgery going to work?
Well, I'll say this. Schefter said he's not playing, so he's playing on Week 18.
Wow.
Schefter has no clue what's going on inside the Titans building. It's an Ian Rappaport building. Ian Rappaport knows. And I'm telling you right now, it's the same surgery that Tua has gotten. It's the same surgery other players have gotten. It is, I don't know the name of it off the top of my head, but it's usually a 2-week turnaround. If that motherfucker's playing on, they're playing. He's playing. Wow. I am fully confident. I'd be so surprised. He says, Rap Sheet says he's likely to play, is what he said. I don't think he said trying. I think he said likely. At least he did it in one tweet. He may have changed it since.
Listen, first of all, anybody ever questioning Ryan Tannehill's toughness, like, get out of here with that. Like,
but I think that's the whole reason he went down, got the surgery, and that specific type of surgery, so he can play and turn around. And he's definitely, I think there's a better chance than not that he's playing Week 18 because they want to get in the playoffs. Mike Vrabel wants to get in the playoffs. The team wants to get in the playoffs, even though it's fruitless and unimportant.
Well, and again, if fans want the celebration of a home playoff game, even if it means a loss, I'm okay with having that because look at all the best Titans players. They all were picked outside of the first round anyway. With the exception of Jeffrey Simmons, you got Derrick Henry, you got A.J. Brown, you got Kevin Byard, you got all the best players are drafted in the second round. So 10 spots in the first round, I'll trade that for a playoff game and a division championship all day, every day, twice on Sunday. They're just gonna have to go down to Jacksonville and do this right here.
Yeah,
they're just gonna have to coach better and play better,
play better.
I think the coaching staff would do well to say more of the first one. The coaching staff they always do say, hey, everybody's got to be better. We got to be better, blah, blah. They need to start putting it a little bit more on themselves, I think.
Yeah, I think they definitely got to.
So there you go. You got like one bowl game question for me? Because listen, by the way, college football playoffs are here, and Friday morning, 9 a.m., not only are we going to recap the Titans' victory over Dallas, but we're going to preview the Orange Bowl with Tennessee and like 4 SEC games on Saturday and 2 playoff games. So we got lots of good college football coming up this weekend.
Yeah, I think so. Let's talk about the bowl games that are going to be between now and Friday. So which one has your attention most? Texas Tech versus Ole Miss or Arkansas versus Kansas?
For some reason, it's Arkansas, Kansas. They have 2 really interesting quarterbacks, Jalen Daniels at Kansas, KJ Jefferson at Arkansas. I think it's going to be a super high-scoring game. You got 2 teams. Kansas wants to be there. Arkansas probably doesn't care as much. The over-under is a big number. I think both these games will be high-scoring, so they're both really entertaining. But I'll take I like Kansas to win outright against Arkansas, but I think it's going to be a really fun quarterback game. That one's just really interesting. They've only played one time, by the way. How about this? You want to win a bar bet, folks, this week? Kansas and Arkansas have played one time in history in 1906.
It's pretty crazy. KJ Jefferson's playing, right? I mean,
supposedly
playing. Yeah. See, that to me is where it's at. Like, that's what I want to go see because KJ Jefferson obviously going to be entering the draft, I would assume. And I'm interested to see what he does. I'm interested to see what he does in his supposedly final game in front of a home crowd. Yeah, because let's remember, it's in Memphis.
What's going on with the water? Like, isn't there something going on with the water or something down there though? Like aren't there? There's distractions within the city or something. Anyway, all right, you're the Memphis.
If there is, then I haven't heard about it, but I know they have a big license plate issue. They're all on those old expired plates right now.
What about your Tigers? Your Tigers are playing on today, right? On Tuesday.
Yeah, 2:15.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm excited. Utah State.
Ole Miss and Texas Tech also interesting, just because again, a lot of points, should be fun to watch. Those are 2 like classic like bowl games. Like nothing really on the line, lots of points on both sides. Pretty good quarterback play for all 4 teams. Just enjoy the fun. Like, don't bet on them, but enjoy the fun. Those should be good. Those should be good games. I do think the games on Saturday are going to be real interesting, though. So,
I can't wait to talk about them.
Under a boil alert. What is that?
I don't know.
Puka Hair says.
Boil alert. I guess they can't boil water or something.
What? This is watching 2 Nashvillians get confused quickly live on the internet. So yeah, this was somebody was asking me about this. Hey, how does that affect Arkansas and Kansas for gambling purposes? I said you need to get a job.
If you're under a boil alert, you should use bottled water or boil tap water.
That's what. See, I was right. Something's going on with the water out there.
Yeah, here goes MLGW, Memphis Light Gas and Water.
There you go. That's crazy. God, and then all the fans for the Titans complaining about the 1 hour delay too. Yeah. And you can't you can't just wait 1 hour for a football game. Meanwhile, a whole other city has to boil all its water. Ridiculous. Come on, man, have some perspective.
That Nashville privilege.
Nashville privilege. Kingston Group, of course, buildkg.com, Nashville's locally owned custom home and remodeling firm. If you're going to have any big decisions about your house, don't make them until you talk to the Kingston Group, buildkg.com. Just have a conversation with them. And, of course, the pharmacy, so crowded right now that we couldn't even do the show there. There's so many people. The food is so good. That place is so hot right now. Go check out the pharmacy, of course, right over there on McFerrin Avenue. They've got a location downtown as well. Great burgers, great brats, locally sourced beers, all kinds of really creative and unique stuff that you can only get at the pharmacy. In fact, my buddy texted me today, and he was like, hey, my wife and I, we're not out of the house very often, but we're in East Nashville. We need to get someplace to eat. I said, I got the place for you. Go to the pharmacy. Get yourself some brats and some tots and have a good old time. Zach, where can people find you and listen to you and all the great stuff, your scribings and your ramblings?
Okay, scribings, BroadwaySportsMedia.com. Go and get an insider pass today to read most of my work. And then my ramblings, football and other F words, and, of course, this show, football and other F words every Wednesday. Wherever you get your podcasts, and also on the Broadway Sports Media YouTube channel.
There you go. Rate, review, subscribe, share the show. Please tell somebody about the product. We really appreciate it. That's how it grows, is by folks like you out there listening and sharing the product with all your friends. We do appreciate it. And again, check out all of Zach's work. Check out all our stuff. Fringe Element with a deep preview, of course, into the Georgia-Ohio State matchup. We've got Pred shows. We got Nashville SC stuff. We got all kinds of great stuff on the 440 Sports Network, serving Nashville sports fans better than anybody else. So go check it out. For Zach, I am Braden. Have a great rest of the week. We'll talk to you Friday morning following the Titans' victory over the Dallas Cowboys right here on A Football Show.